I'd like to call to order the Middletown City Council meeting for Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. If we could please start with a moment of meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Skank, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell.
Here.
Ms. Nenny. Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Muterspaw.
Here.
Mayor Condrey.
Here. I'd like to make a motion to excuse Ms. Ninny.
Second.
Ms. Skank, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Muterspaw.
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Okay, this evening we're going to start with city manager reports. Mr. Lawley.
Thank you, Mayor Condrey. Tonight, to begin with, I would like to introduce Mr. Ben Jones, the Executive Director with the Butler County Metro Housing Authority, to give us a report on BMHA's assistance to the city and everything they have going on.
Great. Ben, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Good evening.
Is that
And as-
microphone on? It is. You're just really tall. Okay.
I'll scooch down a little bit. Okay. Good evening. As City Manager Lawley stated, my name is Ben Jones, and I'm the Executive Director of the Butler Metropolitan Housing Authority. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to discuss our upcoming investment of approximately $45 million to substantially rehabilitate our aging public housing stock here in Middletown. But before I get into that, please allow me a little bit of time to talk a little bit about BMHA. And you all have a kind of a primer of how the Housing Authority was organized and works, but just a few highlights of that. BMHA was founded in 1939 and has the mission to address the housing needs of society discrimination-free, increase access to affordable housing, support community development, and offer economic opportunities within our communities. BMHA is governed by a 5-member board appointed by local officials, and they're all outlined in there, as outlined in the Ohio Revised Code. Our current chairperson is Kathleen Batliner, who's a lifelong Middletown resident and a practicing attorney here in Middletown. BMHA operates 2 main programs, both of which are funded by HUD. The first one is the public housing program. This is where BMHA owns the property and acts as the landlord. These are the towers, the townhouse, J. Ross Hunt Towers, Townhomes East, Townhomes West, Freedom Court. Those are the larger ones. BMHA currently operates 580 public housing units in Middletown and overall 1,141 in Butler County. Right now, we are at about 420 occupied units as we get ready for the relocations that are going to be necessary as part of the redevelopment. The other program we operate is the HCV program, or Housing Choice Voucher, otherwise known as Section 8. They're interchangeable, and you'll hear me interchange them. 30 years of calling it Section 8, and now it's Housing Choice Voucher, so it's a little bit of a change for me. This is where BMHA provides rental assistance to a private landlord on behalf of the resident. The Housing Authority does not own the unit. The unit's owned by a private landlord. One of our program participants rents that unit we pay a portion of that rent on their behalf. Within the BMHA currently administers right around 630 vouchers in the city of Middletown. The number's ever changing, and that is an estimate. The way our system works, it goes by zip code. So the zip codes don't necessarily fall within the city boundaries, so we have to kind of go in and pull stuff out and add stuff in. So 630 is an estimate, but fairly close. We also administer 1,574 vouchers in Butler County right now. And that's including those 630. Within the HCV program, there are several sub-programs. One is the project-based voucher program. That is where the subsidy is tied to a unit rather than to a resident. And the vast majority of our vouchers are what are called tenant-based. So the resident can relocate to wherever they wish and take that voucher along with them. The PBV, the rental assistance, the subsidy is tied to the unit itself. We have one of those here in Middletown, that's at the Hope House. And those are also permanent supportive housing vouchers. So they have services attached to those. Mental health, addiction, just basic support services attached to those. The other programs that we have are the VASH programs. That is specifically for veterans, homeless veterans. And the other one is the EHV. That is a new one. It's the emergency housing vouchers. These are vouchers for people who are homeless, at risk of being homeless, fleeing domestic violence, that kind of thing. And there is a process that those are direct referrals from the Housing and Homeless Coalition, and the Hope House is an intake spot for people wishing to access those. Just a real quick thing, eligibility for each of these programs is determined by HUD with some additional criteria by BMHA. These programs are designed to help people between 0 and 80% of the area median income. There are some criteria that we can eligibility criteria that we can use to reject applications. A couple of those are a lifetime sex offender, production and distribution of methamphetamines. Those are two federally mandated ones. All housing authorities have to abide by those. We have also added felonies within the last 5 years and any prior eviction from BMHA. I'm oversimplifying a lot of this stuff, but from a 10,000-foot level, I think we're okay. Applicants who meet the income criteria and pass all the initial eligibility screening are prioritized based on criteria that BMHA sets forth. The veterans or surviving spouse of a veteran, those that are employed in Butler County get a preference. Butler County residency gets you a preference if you're elderly or disabled, and those with substandard housing, meaning you're paying more than 40% of your income for your rent. So, and kind of going along with that, every resident pays 30% of their adjusted income in rent. either to BMHA or to a private landlord in the HCV world. The 30%, think of it as a tax return. Put all your income, and then you start taking deductions for it. You come up with a final number, and that's the amount that a person would pay for the year. So, just a little bit with respect to the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, or RAD, that we are looking to utilize for this revitalization that we're looking at. Just a very small bit of background, and I apologize for keeping you so long. HUD and Congress over the years have consistently underfunded the capital fund program, which we use to address the capital needs and the public housing of our public housing stock. When BMHA looked at the scope of this about 5 years ago, the gap was approximately $20 million. That was just for BMHA. Nationally, it's about $26 billion is the shortfall. So what the RAD program does, the RAD program was established to allow housing authorities to utilize other funding streams that have been closed off to us in the past, to help close this capital needs gap. One of the tenets of the public housing program is that units cannot have any debt on them. So that hinders us. So at that point, we are beholden to the federal government for whatever they give us to make what repairs we can. And over the years, it has snowballed and snowballed and snowballed. So out of the analysis that we did, it came a first phase that will affect 361 units here in Middletown at 5 developments. That is the townhouse J. Russ Hunt Towers, Townhomes East on Route 4, Townhomes West on Main Street, and then Concord Green, which is just off Main Street on Concord Avenue. By utilizing this program, we're able to acquire bond financing, which then allows us to acquire 4% low-income housing tax credits from OFA, as well as using a fair amount of our BMHA reserves. We will be doing approximately $45 million worth of physical upgrades to the units over the next 24 months after closing. The total value of the deal for the Middletown properties is about $95 million. This will go well beyond cosmetic. This will upgrade or replace the HVAC systems, the plumbing, the electrical, new roofs, new windows, as well as all the interior spaces. It's just short of a gut rehab, is the way we're looking at it. The units will be like new when the process is complete. As part of this, because we're utilizing tax credits, that is a different management model. So we are going to be co-managing with Hayes Gibson Property Management. This arrangement will allow us to learn the tax credit management process and get the experience down so that we can take over hopefully in 2, 3, 4 years, full management. But they're there as a backstop to make sure that we hit all the compliance and make the investors happy. We're currently looking at closing in the first quarter of 2023. That is still fluid, but that's where it sits now. Some factors that are affecting us and the scopes of work that we're looking at, obviously, are the interest rates. Econ 101 as rates go up, yields go down. less money to do stuff with. And then the double whammy on that is inflation. Rising costs of material and labor are always at the forefront. So, again, I want to thank you all for allowing me to give you a little bit. And I'm sorry I took up more time than what I was thinking I would. But I mean, I'm more than happy to answer questions. I don't know if I'll have answers, but if I don't, I'll certainly get them for you and get them to you.
Specifically on, kind of towers, we got 2 of them, as you know. It doesn't seem like we see a lot of those going up around the country. Can you give me any history or backstory on why that is?
Well, public housing itself, that kind of development stopped when the tax credit, or slowed down, I should say, when the tax credit product came onto the market back in '74, I believe, or no, '84, I'm sorry. These were all the public housing that we have here was developed back in, the air quotes, the old days of HUD, where a need was determined. You put an application into HUD. HUD said, "Here's $10 million. Go build what you said you were going to build." HUD doesn't work that way anymore. So that, I mean,
HUD made a policy decision to go a different direction, sounds like.
As far as development, yes. Development of new stuff, yes, absolutely.
So just from my real estate experience, a lot of what the government decided to do there was, if we give tax credits to investors and business people, they can do a better job than we can. And that's sort of why, from the research I've done, they've stopped investing in these towers, for example. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I definitely could be, but.
And I don't think so, but HUD's funding, HUD's capital fund program, everything's dictated by Congress. You can see that Congress will allocate $4 billion for operating costs, and then another $1.2 billion or $2 billion for the capital fund program. As to why they have underfunded that, that's way above my pay grade.
Ben, can you confirm, you said $95 million $95 million is going into our 5 properties?
$45 million in actual hard costs, and then there's a lot of other costs that go in there too, but yeah, so the
So
total.
what happened to the letter of opposition that Middletown City Council, along with our attorney, wrote regarding those?
I know that went to OFA. I don't know what their, I don't.
Because I feel like the number, the amount of investment only went up after we opposed it to begin with. I just don't understand the process. We were given, a timeline to submit any concerns. We submitted it. I don't think we heard anything back, and here we are pushing forward. I guess I don't understand that process sufficiently to know why we even would have spent lawyer dollars to.
Right. And that one I honestly don't know, because that was a letter to OFA.
Right.
So,
Okay. Do you know, as far as the cosmetic parts, I know we've kind of gone back and forth about all the different things that are happening, but you did kind of reference something about it's not just cosmetic, but I think before there wasn't anything cosmetic going on. Are there going to be cosmetic changes to the towers specifically?
To the tower specifically, that I am not sure. I know that there is going to be landscaping done and things like that, but I guess you know, and as we discussed back in January, you know, it all comes down to dollars and what makes, you know, it's if the you know, it might look nice outside, but if the toilets keep overflowing and things like that, if we haven't addressed issues that are there, then, I mean, that's kind of where we are. I'm always looking for more money.
More than 95 million.
Okay,
Okay.
and yeah, I buy a lottery ticket every Tuesday and Friday to, you know, but you know, we.
So you're not,
If there
you're
are-
not sure as far as
I'm
the,
not exactly sure exactly what all is happening on the cosmetic side. But I guess if there are specific things that you all would like to see on that, you know, I'm more than willing to look and see what we can find, and, you know, the answer may be we can't do it, but I'm willing to have the conversation. You know,
Did you all consider taking the towers down and building something different there?
no.
Why not?
So HUD regulations will not allow us to do that.
They don't allow you to rebuild, or?
No, yeah, no, I can't, we're not allowed to take them down and rebuild,
Okay.
so.
and a few things, like, since when we met in February, I want to recap and let me know if I understood it correctly, because it's what I've been kind of telling people, so I want to make sure I'm saying the right thing when it comes to that. See, really what Butler Metropolitan Housing Authority is doing is implementing federal programs, right? You guys are not determining who gets the vouchers. Well, you are prioritizing the list, but the actual criteria is a federal program, and you're simply administering the federal program, correct?
Correct.
And when it comes to the Section 8, which I'm going to continue to call it Section 8 because that's what our citizens know right now, when it comes to that, Middletown can have as many Section 8 rentals in it as we have property owners willing to rent out to Section 8 renters. Is that accurate?
Yes, yeah.
So-
When a Section 8, when a person receives a Section 8 voucher, when they get that, they can go literally anywhere in the country, from Puerto Rico to the Virgin Islands, to Guam, and all the way in between. And they find someone who's willing to accept that voucher. If they're willing to accept that voucher, then obviously it has to pass inspection, things like that, but then we would sign a contract with them.
Okay, so when you talk about the number of Section 8 vouchers in Middletown, because that's a hot topic, right?
Right.
That we always hear that there's too many in Middletown, and are you talking about the number being allocated for those living in a Middletown zip code, or the number that are being actively used within our zip codes?
Actively used.
Okay, so in theory, we could be down to zero, right? If no one in Middletown wanted to rent out to Section 8 and receive that income, we could have zero.
It is
On the same token, every property owner could decide they want to rent it out, and every property in Middletown could be filled with Section 8.
correct.
And what's the maximum amount? Is it $1,800 per month for Section 8 rental that you guys are willing to pay out?
We will pay up to the fair market rent for a unit, and that goes by, and I did not bring those with me, I apologize, but it's by bedroom size.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have a number from our meeting if you want me to reference it. You had a 3-bedroom voucher was $1,244 a month, including utilities.
And it's probably gone up since then, because the
Yeah.
new ones came out with the inflation, it's probably kicked it up a fair bit, but, there are certain criteria that it would have to meet as well. Obviously, it has to pass the inspections, but it also has to pass what we call rent reasonableness.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a you know, depending on what amenities that it has, do they provide appliances, stove and refrigerator? That's considered an amenity. And I'm by no means expert on all of those, but they have to go, there's a process that they have to go through to say, okay, that unit qualifies for that full fair market rent because of what it has to offer.
So when it comes to people applying to the program at all, technically they don't have to, except for the few exclusions that you listed. Someone turns the age of 18, they can go apply for voucher, don't have to be actively looking for a job. Is that?
There's
No requirement that you be looking for a job. There's no requirement that you're disabled. There's no requirement that you're elderly. As a U.S. citizen, you could go apply, put your hands up in the air and say, give me some housing.
Well,
I know that's not your fault. I'm just
no,
like
I-
kind of talking through the program.
no, and I guess my comment would be that, yes, that is the case. However, our current, our Section 8 waiting list is closed and has been closed for the last couple of years.
Okay.
So-
So they're
so
not
right now-
prioritized because they don't fit all the criteria, like they're lower on the list of,
They, if someone wanted to apply for Section 8 housing today in Butler County, we would say, no, you can't, other than some of these special programs, no, you can't do that because the waiting list is closed. So,
even if they were more qualified than other people who are on the waiting list?
yes.
Okay.
And again, that's a
Yeah,
HUD thing, but yes.
right. Okay.
So I'm going to jump away from Section 8 if.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Public housing vouchers. I know you got 1,100 here on your list. 100% of those are in Middletown or Hamilton, is that right?
That is correct.
Obviously, I understand there might be more need in Middletown or Hamilton. Is there a reason there's not public housing units? Because there's poverty and need in lots of other communities in the county. Why is that not an option?
Well, and again, this kind of goes back to your first question about the development. So and I can't speak to why they developed what they did back in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, or why they developed what they did, where they did. But after 1984, the model changed. So the HUD was not developing this deep subsidy public housing. They went to the tax credit model, and you see tax credit. There are tax credit properties all around. There's at least one in Oxford. No, two in Oxford. There's a couple in. I mean, they're scattered about and in the townships and things like that. So.
But you're prevented by federal law from purchasing land in any random township or city and putting up a property there?
There just isn't money to do public housing. The
HUD funds don't come down that way.
The
You
HUD's,
can't acquire property.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. What housing authorities can do is allocate project-based some of our Section 8 vouchers. So what are normally tenant-based vouchers, we project-base them, and that's the way we bring the deep subsidy into a development that's usually developed through the tax credit program. And that's how Hope House was developed. And then there's the YWCA in Hamilton is the other one that we have.
And does Hope House still have 31 of those project-based vouchers? Okay, so they have about 5% of all of our Section 8 vouchers in the city. Because they're Section 8, right? They're not public
Correct.
housing, yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry, I need to scooch down. People can't hear me.
I just had one more comment. You know, you detail your board, and I know it was asked probably 5 or 6 years ago, previous city manager asked if there was a way that we could get somebody from either the city staff or from a council level, as Hamilton has done, potentially appointed to the board, and it looks like that's kind of dictated by Ohio Revised Code.
Yes.
You know, and I understand how we got here, obviously, when Middletown used to have a housing authority and no longer has the housing authority, but would ask that if you'd be interested in working with us to see how we could get someone on that board. You know, we have more than 50% of the public housing units, and then we have a good number of vouchers, not quite 40% of the vouchers in the county. I think it would be in the city of Middletown's best interest to have some representation on that board from a city staff or council level.
Right. And I know there are other requirements on that I don't know the ins and outs of that our attorneys can probably provide some additional information on that kind of stuff as well. So.
And who are your attorneys? Do you use county prosecutor or?
No, we use it's a private firm, Wood Lamping, out of Cincinnati.
Ben, have you worked with, or do you know if Middletown Police Department in one city know about those emergency housing vouchers? Have they? I know you said they're allocated to or through Hope House, but are they familiar with that? It sounded like it was a new program.
It is very new. I honestly don't know if we have. No. Chief Burke's given me the no sign, so we will certainly do that. I'll certainly do that. And
Yeah, that'd be great if more than Hope House could get access to those.
well, and they are just the intake. So the way the emergency housing voucher works, it is a direct referral from the Housing and Homeless Coalition. So they have a couple of intake points around the county that people funnel information to. It doesn't have to come. Hope House doesn't have to be the one to say, we're going to take care of this. They're just kind of funneling the information, making sure that the forms are correct, and then getting them to the proper spot. We wanted to make sure we had a space here in Middletown that we could get, people could get information into anyway. So.
I have one more question,
Okay.
sorry. So when people are in these programs, whether it be public housing or Section 8, are there active programs that they have access to or are required to even go through in order to attempt to get them up to being greater tax-paying citizens in the end and off of the programs?
We do not require anything. We cannot require anything. There was the FSS, Family Self-Sufficiency Program. That is not active at this point in time right now. No, we don't have anything in particular. I mean, in specific, in the Housing Authority. I know there are a lot of programs out there to help people, but we do not require them. So.
Okay. Thank you. I know this topic is, we hear it around town all the time, and having you as a authority figure to give us the facts and the figures really helps. We can dispel a lot of rumors and also have more in-depth conversations amongst ourselves about it. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I thank you again, and happy to be here anytime. So, all right. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Mr. Lawley, did you have any other city manager reports you'd like to?
Not this evening.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to citizen comments next. So we have 4 minutes for anyone who has filled out a comment card to come up to the dais, state your name and address for the record. Someone who lives at 1900 something, and I can't read your name. All right, come on up to the dais. Sorry about that. We got 4 of them tonight.
I live at 1900 Minnesota Street, very loud, ex-federal investigator.
what I'm doing up here is not Middletown's business. I was,
Can you state your name as well for the
Frederick
record?
John Gaylor Jr.
Thank you.
Okay, I got my license, I got some senatorial letters, and I got something here for the press so they can hear the story. But what happened to me in Middletown was Middletown city workers came up and took 3 cars off another property down the street at 1900. They came up to my property, parked on the side of the road. I was just happening to walk my dog. It was in November. It was like a week after I had heart failure and had to go 3 days in the hospital. I'm a 59-year-old male, retired, okay? So the gentleman got out of his truck. I was walking my dog on my property. I had my car in front of the door. My wife's disabled, and the other gentleman's disabled. I own property in Florida. I own property in Virginia. I own property in North Carolina, and I'm probably going to own property up here soon. I was never told in any of these properties that you can't park your car on your own grass, all right? This gentleman got out, and I fall on my dog, which is a pit bull, and say, let me just put my dog in. He goes back across the sidewalk, gets in the car. The blonde gets out. On her side, a younger woman, I don't know who she was, demanded to come up, and I told her, what kind of commie crapola thing is this? I said, just told you, get off my property, send me a letter. So they don't want to respect that. They go up to the door with my 57-year-old disabled wife and another gentleman who's a vet who I happen to be taking care of at that property, and tells them some stuff. I don't know what they told me, and told me to move my car. So I came to the police department, and I found out that you can't park on your own grass, on your own property with a rental agreement, which I possessed from June. So this was in November from your workers. Okay, I've had in my past a Class A animal license. If I had a bear, and I said to you, let me just put my bear up and we'll talk. I don't care if you're the sheriff. You're going to say, yeah, we'll let you put your bear up. Thank you. What's the difference of my dog and just giving me the respect of my own property? To just put my dog up and then talk to me. Then tell you send a letter and you don't respect it. Then you come out and you go, nanny, noo, I'm going to win this one. And that's what they did to me. Then they called the landlord, and then I said I was all these terrible things with a wiffle ball bat to try to get me kicked out. Is this the way you treat citizens of the United States, ex-federal investigators, senatorial letters? This is for the press, and this is why you guys did it to me. Trenton Police Department beat me April 14th on film. I went to Senator Chabot, the Department of Justice, Judge Sharon, none of you cared. You charged me with the dreaded crime of yelling for 2 minutes while I'm being beat in front of the citizens around my wife and grandchildren and their own film. They made that disappear. Now you're attacking me here because of this Catherine Ann Form Act, which is reallocated money, which I just heard from this gentleman here from HUD that he's missing money and it gets reallocated from the Senate. This is the same thing. Quit picking on me. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your concerns. Next we have,
Concerns. It's how you treat citizens of the United States of America. You shit on them. You don't even respect. Let me put my dog up, and you'll do nothing to the citizens for your work.
next we have Rebecca Conopeth, I believe. Do we have a Rebecca? I know it's a tough one to follow. Take your time.
Well, I thought we were gonna, I don't understand, I've been here in the past to talk about.
Rebecca, can you move that microphone just a little closer to yourself? That way we can.
I'm Rebecca Griffith, I live on Miller
Griffith,
Road.
sorry.
And this is in regard to the subdivision that they want to build, and when we went to the.
Rebecca, did you state your address yet? Can you just?
4643 Miller Road.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so, I thought that that's what we were gonna talk about, but I see it's been passed on till, rescheduled till January. So there is some people here that I know that are from the other meeting that we had with the Planning Commission. So my comment is just that, it's too much housing, you know, cookie cutter houses, it's way too much traffic, because where my house is and where this subdivision is, way too many cars, And we talked about this in the planning commission. There was a ton more people that were there with a lot more technical concerns than what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about a homeowner who has animals and who sees that the school traffic is terrible and nobody drives the speed limit. I stood out there today and counted out 25 to 30 cars. One car drove 20 miles an hour. I have a photo on my phone that shows the school and the zone sign, school zone, 20 miles an hour. Nobody drives that. 25 to 30 cars, one car. Even the buses don't do it. Maybe one bus out of 10. And you want to put a subdivision that has 200 some houses with that kind of traffic, and you're talking about emergency vehicles, you're talking about snow removal. Yes, there's a school there, but I can tell you, I've lived there 30-some years, and the snow removal is just on the back burner. It doesn't get done. So I'm just here talking my piece because it's not a safe fit for this area in East Middletown. There's beautiful homes there, and we want to keep that intact, that green space, the quietness where we can walk. These folks live over on this gentleman lives in Miller Ridge. And I'm just there, it was an old country road. If all of you are from around Middletown, you know it's an old country road for a long time. And now you're going to want to put 230 houses with 2 cars each, and you have all that traffic, and you have people that aren't obeying the speed limit, and my house is right here, so they've only got one outlet from this big subdivision onto Miller Road. How's that going to work? There's all kinds of problems with this subdivision, and you can hear it from other people. You can read the notes from why they denied it. There's all kinds of reasons why the subdivision should be voted down. There's plenty of places in Middletown they can build it. They don't need to be doing it at the end of Miller Road. It just isn't going to work. And and it's NASCAR Nation. And I'm a NASCAR girl, but it's just way too much traffic. It's not a fit for the East End, for our street. There's expensive homes there, big lots, and you're talking about a 60-foot lot, bam, bam, bam. It's not eye-appealing either. So, and it's not gonna look nice, not with the homes we have there. People move out to the East End where I'm at for a reason. I got 2 acres. I'm happy, I don't have to see all of that. But the folks over here in their subdivision in Armor Point, they're gonna see that. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Next, we have Dave Pierce. And then we have Dr. Jerry Rogers after that.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Dave Pierce, 607 Terra Oaks Drive. I'm here tonight to express my support for the Wi-Fi project that's on the agenda for later in the meeting. Aside from Wi-Fi at Smith Park, one of my priorities with this project has been to install cameras and lights at the Smith Park to make people feel safer, to protect our existing assets, and to allow people to exercise in the evenings, especially in the fall and the winter. So I'm excited to share with you that I've got a prominent foundation here in town that sees the value in this project, and they have funded primarily for the lights and the cameras. They've provided funding for $60,000. It's the Miriam Knoll Foundation, and their board obviously recognizes the value in this project. In addition to the foundation, the Ohio Challenge is committed $10,000, and Middletown Youth Soccer is committed $5,000 to the cameras and lights. Wi-Fi access is rapidly becoming commonplace and expected in public places, and communities across southwestern Ohio are installing Wi-Fi at an accelerated rate. The parks targeted for the Wi-Fi are our primary parks used by the residents and host many of the events that we have in town. And Wi-Fi is needed by the events and the tournaments and everything else we hold because vendors want to use cashless transactions. Facilities want to use wireless devices, or the events want to use wireless devices as they execute on their event, right? You talk about production equipment that we need to use, cameras, microphones, video boards, handheld devices. And then lastly, we need access to Wi-Fi to empower the ability to live stream the events. And that is becoming more and more popular every day. Aside from the events, local residents that go to our parks on a daily basis could access Wi-Fi on their laptops or other devices, which would enable them to perhaps work more outside or be outside more often by having access to Wi-Fi. The technology platform from Alta Fiber is going to come with a landing page that users sign on to gain Wi-Fi access. So we're going to capture information from these users. And then the landing page is going to offer them tailored offerings and going to inform them about what's going on in the community. And we get to control that. We get to design the message to visitors when they come into town. Down the road, there's an opportunity for us to monetize this as we get more people using the Wi-Fi system. You know, the events that we have not only provide entertainment, but drive economic development to the city. The Ohio Challenge this year generated over $827,000 in economic impact to the city. The 2 soccer tournaments generate over $2 million a year. Pickleball, I don't know what the numbers are, but there's significant economic impact, which I think justifies the investment. And I liken this decision to a decision that City Council made 30 years ago to install the water outlets and the electrical hitching posts down at Smith Park, which was done 30 years ago. And I think we're really fortunate that they had the courage to make that decision, because I really don't think if we didn't have those assets, I don't think we'd have the Ohio Challenge and we wouldn't have Light Up Middletown without those resources. So thanks for your time.
David, was that $67,000 donated total? Was it 67?
75 in total. Now I probably still have about a $25,000 gap for the cameras and the lights. I'll get that part done. But I got 75 of what I think I'm going to need, about 100 grand for the cameras and the lights.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Next and last citizen comment is Dr. Jerry Rogers.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, Mr. Lilly. Dr. Jerry Rogers, 4536 Miller Road in Middletown. And I noticed here on the agenda, on the motion agenda, item B, about the continuing of the public hearing for the preliminary development back on in Riverbend. First question, has there been anything submitted as a change to what was presented to the Planning Commission? Or is this the same? Do you know?
So
No change has been submitted.
There is a change?
Nothing's been submitted.
Okay, well, here goes to what I call, in my personal opinion, arrogance of the people that are trying to develop this. They have already had 2 months to come up with a change. When they were at the Planning Commission the first time, they had no answers to really anything. They had no answers to the type of homes, the quality, the traffic control, and now it's been 2 months. October 12th to December 12th, it's been 2 months. There has been nothing offered, and they want this continued. My question now is if you vote no on the continuance, does this thing come to a vote tonight about whether or not to accept the proposal that they put before the planning commission that was unanimously denied?
So
Any
I'm going to have
attorney
to
answer
first
to
say that citizen comments, unfortunately, we can't have question and answer back and forth.
My apologies.
No
but
problem. I'll be
those are
happy to, in
thoughts.
my council comments, I'll actually read an recent email from Mr. Lawley that he made a statement about how this is all planning out.
All right.
We can, it should educate you guys.
All right, since 2 minutes left, I just want to let you know, when I built 6 years ago our home, Middletown was in the process of wanting to develop the East End with what I would call, was by another developer, but they mentioned like executive homes. Now my home in Miller Ridge is the smallest home there. And my house width is the width of the entire lot of this proposed development. 224 homes, now let's go back to the cars, 2 cars each. If you figure 25% of that, that's 112 cars that are going to be coming out at any probably over a period of time, in one way and out one way. There is no safety walks, there is nothing for the school. The school for the people that live in that area that would be going to Miller Ridge Elementary cannot handle it, from what I understand from the staff. Secondhand comments, I know it's hearsay, but the school will be struggling. The home values, originally, just to give you an example, the minimum lot area in the original plan was 30,000 square feet. This new development puts it down to 6,000. That's an 80% reduction in the size of the lot. The engineer at that time at the Planning Commission, when he was asked some questions, said that basically the people that were going to develop it really couldn't make the houses any larger because it's not economically feasible, or they just don't want to do it because of what it was implied to me, or the way I took it was because of profit. Okay, yes, you're in business to make money. I understand that. But this is not in the interest of Middletown. I know it's going to be developed. I'm all for Middletown developing and growing. This is my hometown. I've lived here all my life except for a year when I was going to school in California. I want to see it develop, and I wanted to see it develop wisely. But this plan, the way it is not fit for Middletown or what they had planned for the East End. And I'm asking you to vote no on this. And like I said, they've had 2 months to make changes and then come back, and from what I know, they haven't done it. So that goes to show you what I think.
Thank you very much. So next comes to council comments. If you guys don't mind, I'm just going to read what Mr. Lawley had written to some other citizens so that you guys are immediately aware of the current status of that particular development. Mr. Lawley wrote to council, or actually he copied to us on an email to a citizen. He said, tonight's public hearing on the Riverbend development essentially is being tabled until a future council meeting. The difference about the public hearing that was supposed to occur is that, so in this case, someone was asking if they could speak, so that at a public hearing, so when we do have a public hearing about the topic, there's no limit to the amount of time that you can speak about it or the number of people who can get up and speak, unlike here during citizen comments today, you're limited to 4 minutes. So when the public hearing does occur, you're welcome to ramble on as long as you want. Of course, you want to be effective with your time. But that said, Mr. Lawley's had discussions with the developer, and they've agreed to consider alternative ideas to the proposed development. So it sounds like that's a good plan based on what I'm hearing tonight. And they appear amenable, they're to having a type of town hall meeting with the neighbors that would be palatable for all parties. I give you a lot of credit, Mr. Lawley, for looking into that, because that has been an issue in previous development processes, that the neighborhood has not been involved sufficiently. So I'm glad that looks like that may be a next step. And Paul, you have a meeting scheduled with them tomorrow, and maybe you have a little bit more information for us tomorrow at least. But does that sound like a decent update?
Correct.
Okay, so hopefully that helps you guys get a little bit of clarity on where we are with that. And I imagine it will come back maybe in January, but if not, a little bit after that. If a town hall manages to happen in January, hopefully we could see it a little after the town hall would be my personal request. But Okay, that being said, let's continue on to normal council comments. Mr. Farrow, would you like to start?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
A couple things. So first off, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. I want to thank, I guess as this is my last council meeting of my first year of city council, I want to thank everybody that's reached out to me, to encourage or give their insight, those types of things. I didn't realize before I ran how many truly invested citizens there really are in Middletown, and I just want to thank all you guys. Second, we all know we have a snowstorm coming. Hopefully not, but probably will happen, my personal opinion. But just be patient. I know as citizens, and being one of those people that's complained in the past, why aren't the roads getting paved? Why aren't the roads getting snow removed? These people are out here, they're working overtime, they want to be at home with their families doing these types of things. So they're trying to do the right thing, so just be a little bit patient with them. An article, I don't know if Rick wrote it or it came out in the paper in, let's say, the last week, but I thought it was pretty cool. It was all the things happening in Butler County cities going forward in 2023. So Hamilton kind of came in first place with Spooky-Nook and whatnot, which that's a world-class facility, but I thought it was cool. It wasn't Westchester, it wasn't Fairfield, but Middletown finished in second place with all the things that we have going on outside of the highway. So it's encouraging that, for me, I ran in with the help of past council to really get a vision going for the future of the city, and it's cool to see that we finally have development and ideas and a long-term plan going. So it's exciting, it's encouraging, and looking forward to doing this job in 2023. Thank you, Mayor. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Moon?
Yes, thank you. I'll be brief. Wanted to thank city staff for all their work this year, thank my colleagues on council. It's been a very, very busy year, a lot of new things and changes going on, so wanted to thank you all for all your work this year, and Mr. Lawley for stepping in, obviously, as our city manager. And then other than that, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year, and we'll look forward to seeing you in January. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Muterspaw?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. As far as the proposal and the development that's coming up, it's great to see the passion. We had this with the Hill that came up recently too, to see people come to council and speak their mind and speak their hearts about their own neighborhood is awesome. And it's to be commended. And I will tell you, I don't support the project. I'll say it now. So I stand with you guys on that. We'll see what happens at the public hearing. Also, when you hear a proposal, that's exactly what it is, it's a proposal. I got several emails, I'm sure other council did as well, saying, why did you guys doing this? Why are you developing this? We're not developing anything. It's a proposal. Anybody can come to the city manager, make a proposal for anything in the city. And it's our job to hear that out, research it, and weigh it out. So that's what's happening here, just like the other projects. Tomorrow night at the Sorg Opera House, 6 o'clock, there's a show choir competition. Anybody who knows anything about the Sorg, it's one of the jewels of our city. It's a phenomenal place. The Middletown Purple Pizzazz will be performing there, and about 5 other choirs, I think. So recommend anybody go out and watch it and support and have a good time. Other than that, thank you to staff for a great year. I know the city manager will concur. I look around and see some of the department heads here, and you guys just do a phenomenal job. And I don't think the public really understands how short you guys work and how hard you work and how many hours you guys put in for the pay that you get. So we really appreciate you, and I know the manager does too. So thank you very much. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. I got a couple things. One, I was excited to see a bid go out today for the voluntary action plan for the paperboard. So excited about that. Get that squared away, cleaned up, and progress happen at the paperboard factory. I had a couple discussions at different board and commission meetings over the last few weeks about how can we be more effective at communicating what's going on in our board and commission meetings. I think we probably as council members do a good job, at least in a lot of mine. I update the board or commission on what's going on in the city, but I think as council members, we could probably do a better job of updating each other about what's going on in boards and commissions. I know we have meeting minutes, but those don't always reflect the hot topics or the areas that maybe we could cover. So I just have a suggestion that maybe in our council comments, or as we're going to board and commission meetings, we take a few notes like, hey, here's something I'd like to update council and the city, by the way, on. And in our council comments, maybe we project those forward. There may be nothing of importance, or we maybe have something that might be. So to kick it off, I have one thing from the Board of Health that And I was gonna, I should have put this as a slide, but it's okay, we can update everyone. It's the Amanda neighborhood sewage issue. It is, not a good issue, and I'm gonna read what the Board of Health said about it real quick. I'm gonna pass this, I'll give it to.
Thank you, Tal.
Left these at your desk earlier.
Thank you.
So what I handed them was a map of the septic in Middletown, and as you can see, all the red are the septic systems that are archaic, outdated, and having major health implications, and almost all of them are situated right in the Amanda neighborhood, which is also a major flood zone. This has been going on for a very, very long time. It's something we've kind of just, it's a difficult issue, right? Because the cost for those sewage systems is far more than what the homeowners can pay. It's also more than what their houses are worth. And so how do we fix the issue? I don't have the answer right now. I'm just going to read what the Department of Health wrote about it, and we've been talking about it in the Board of Health. So the Amanda area has 424 household sewage treatment systems. This area consists of the following roads with the number of household sewage treatment systems noted in parentheses in each street. So we've got Pershing Avenue has 56, Judy Drive has 23, Brent Drive 16, Ogden Avenue 21, Rossland Drive 35, Bernice Avenue 37, Hood Avenue 33, Rufus Street 34, Morgan Street 49, Andrew Street 49, Glenwood Avenue 8, Sheridan Avenue 9, and Finley Street 54. So the concern is the majority of these homes were built in the 50s, and the health department does not have the original drawings for the household sewage treatment systems installed because the area was annexed to the city. A well-maintained household sewage treatment system's lifespan is around 30 years. Each lot size is between a quarter acre and a half acre. So the limited acreage may prevent the installation of a new soil absorption household sewage treatment system when the current system fails. 201 of these homes are located in a floodplain under floodplain waterway, which also may prohibit the installation of a new soil absorption household sewage treatment system. Also noted in this area are homes that have dry wells as well as their household sewage treatment system. Ohio Administrative Code Chapter 3701-29-06E5 states that no sewage or effluent shall be discharged into an abandoned well, drainage well, or a dry well, or cesspool, a sinkhole, or other connection to groundwater. Homeowner financial cost is a concern due to the limitations mentioned above. So the new household sewage treatment system could cost a minimum of $20,000 to install within the Amanda area. City sanitary sewers are currently serving homes on Oxford State Road, Glenwood Avenue, and Sheridan Avenue. So I bring that up because this is going to be something that we have to figure out what we're going to do moving forward in that neighborhood. I'm not going to make any suggestions at the moment, but we need to do something about it, and we can't just keep pushing it down the road. So I know Jackie's probably mentioned it to you, but it's a big
And Development
issue.
Service has met with Mindy from the CDBG, and there may be some CDBG plan amendment funding for it. We're researching that right now, and some other special assessments. But once again, it has been kicked down the can, and mainly because of capital cost. I mean, I'm not an expert, Scott, and I would tend to say you're probably looking in the millions of dollars easily, and that's very much the reason it's been kicked down the road.
Great. I just wanted to raise everybody's awareness about it because it's a problem. And then one other thing, board and commission wise, I would personally, I know we're all working to get new board and commission members on a regular basis. I don't know when my efforts are working out or not. So if there's any way that council can be added immediately to that distribution list when people apply, I don't know who's getting those, but I would love to get it right away. Like when they apply, I'd like to get that. So if that's an IT thing or what, but I don't know when people are actually responding and applying, and I'm trying to get them to. So if that's something we could do, I don't know if you guys would appreciate seeing that as well right away instead of when we get to the meeting. I'd like it a little bit more timely to see if the
You're
efforts.
talking about the whole applications?
Yeah, like when they come in, I'd like it to not just be in a clump, but like as they, like a rolling
Right.
notification, personally. And that's all I had tonight for council comments. That brings us to consent agenda. Ms. Skink, could you present that for us?
For your consideration this evening, we have the Board and Commission minutes from the Historic Commission of July the 21st, October the 20th, and November the 3rd, 2022. The Architectural Review Board of August the 16th and October the 4th, 2022. The Board of Health minutes from November 8th, 2022. The Library Board minutes of November 16th, 2022. And the Civil Service minutes of November 17th, 2022, to confirm the personnel appointments of Victoria Burton to the position of Income Tax Auditor in the Department of Finance, Division of Taxation, and Marcus Hall to the position of Corrections Officer in the Department of Public Safety, Division of Police, to confirm the following title and wage range changes effective January 1 of 2023 in accordance with Ordinance Number O 2022-108, O 2022-109, and Ordinance Number O 2022-110. Title change only, Registered Environmental Health Specialist in Training to Environmental Health Specialist in Training, Sarah Cheney. Wage range change only, Chandra Corbin, Director of Nursing, range 264, Step I. James Metz, City Planner, range 270, Step A. Title and wage range change, Computer Technician to Network Administrator, Scott Gardner, current range 252, Step F, moving to 264, Step B. Computer Technician to Systems Administrator, Michael Saltzman, current range 182, Step G, moving to range 178, Step D. An Executive Count Clerk to Utility Billing Specialist, Anita Sorrell, current range 186, Step G, moving to range 181, Step C.
There's a phrase we're supposed to say, isn't there, that Monica says?
Not really. You can just
Move
move.
to approve the consent agenda as proposed.
Okay.
Does that work?
Is that good, Law Director?
That was perfect.
There you go.
Thank you.
Second.
Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Readerspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
On the motion agenda tonight, we have to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Glenwood Electric for the construction and installation of 2 new generators for the water system at a cost of $3,038,100.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Any comments or questions? It's a lot of money for generators. I appreciate all the details behind why we need it. So thank you. Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Mr. Readerspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Item B is to continue the scheduled public hearing on the preliminary development plan and map amendment request by applicant National Land Partners on behalf of the property owner, the Nopke Brothers, for a new subdivision that proposes 224 detached single-family homes with public streets on council's January 17, 2023 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second. Any comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Readerspaw.
No.
It still passes.
Okay, that brings us to legislation.
Great, and I will need a motion to waive the charter requirements requiring 2 readings and 30 days to passage for legislative items 1 through 9. That's ordinance number O 2022-119, resolution number R 2022-52, ordinance number O 2022-120, ordinance number O 2022-121, ordinance number O 2022-122, ordinance number O 2022-123, ordinance number O 2022-124, ordinance number O 2022-125, and resolution number R 2022-53.
I move to waive the charter provision requiring readings on 2 separate days and to declare the previously read ordinances and resolutions an emergency measure and read one time only.
Second. Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Readerspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Great. First, we'll do legislative item number 1, which is ordinance number O 2022-119, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to grant an access easement to Justin R. King for parcels adjacent to 1614 and 1616 First Avenue and declaring an emergency.
So moved.
Second?
Mr.
Nothing
Lawley,
further to add from last meeting.
any comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Gang, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Next is resolution number R 2022-52, a resolution requesting the auditor of Butler County to advance the treasurer of the city of Middletown, Ohio, taxes assessed and collected for and on behalf of the city of Middletown, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
So moved.
Oh, go ahead, Tal. I'll second.
Mr. Lawley,
Nothing further to add.
council comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Gang, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Item 3 is ordinance number O 2022-120, an ordinance authorizing a collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council. This is for the police civilian employees for the years January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2025, and declaring an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Lawley,
Council, this is the first of 4 collective bargaining agreements in front of you tonight. This one involves our police civilian employees, the records clerk individuals. I'll just cover the economic stuff, and if you have any questions on anything else, we'll be able to answer those questions. The term of the contract is for 3 years. There'll be some increases in longevity pay from 10 years to the 25 years career. Group life insurance is increased from $15,000 to $50,000 per employee, making it consistent with all of our other employees. As far as the wages are concerned, there's a 0% in 2023, and that is due to we redid a lot of the scales within one of the pay ranges, and then in 2024, 3% and 3% in 2025. They will receive a lump sum bonus of 2% at their current salary. That has been consistent with what we have given other collective bargaining groups. And we'll eliminate the 12-step wage scale like we're doing in all the other collective bargaining groups to take it down to 6 years. And then they will receive the one-time ARPA lump sum bonus of $2,496 that we have given to all the other employees.
And this is 5 employees?
6. 5, you're correct. And I think that's at a total cost of $30,000 per year. Same as that per year, correct? Total, okay, total.
any other comments or questions from council? Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Item number 4 tonight is ordinance number O 2022-121, an ordinance authorizing a collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council. This is for the dispatchers for the years January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2025, and declaring an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Council, this is our contract with the dispatchers that also is a 3-year contract. Longevity, as in our other collective bargaining agreements, will be increased by 0.5% in each of the increments from 10 to 25 years. The group life insurance increases from $22,500 to $50,000 as our other groups. The wages increase 3% each year of the contract. There'll be an annual lump sum of 2% each year. The 12 steps will go down to 6 steps. And there also is a $1 per hour for each hour time spent training new dispatchers. and some changes in the hours of overtime work and the one-time ARPA lump sum bonus of $3,000 for the dispatcher. Also, if you remember, there was some, and this is, if you recall, there was some grievances filed as far as what emergency pay meant when the pandemic hit. We have ironed out those problems to basically say the emergency pay has to be a national disaster as the city manager or city council determines what constitutes a national disaster.
How many dispatchers do we have now, Chief?
We have 14. Our max is 15. We're going through the process right now, so we'll hopefully have one higher beginning of next year.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Gang, if you'll please call the roll.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw.
Yes.
Next up is ordinance number O 2022-122, an ordinance authorizing a collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council. This is for corrections officers for the years January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2025, and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Mr. Lawley.
This is for our corrections officers, very similar to the others. Determine the contract is for 3 years. The longevity was increased by 0.5% in each of the 5-year increments from 10 to 25. The wages were increased 3% for each year of the contract, an annual lump sum bonus of 2%. The 12-step wage scale was reduced to 6 years, and one-time ARPA lump sum bonus of $3,000. The cost on the corrections officer is $60,000. The cost on the dispatchers, I didn't give that to you, was $140,000 total cost.
Any comments or questions on this one? Okay, Ms. Gang, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Item number 6 is ordinance number O 2022-123, an ordinance authorizing a collective bargaining agreement with AFSCME Local 856 for July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2025, and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Mr. Lawley.
Council, this was the culmination of a long time, several months. All parties involved really did a lot of hard work and a good job to get to where we're at today. A lot of similar things in this contract, but due to the public works can be kind of cumbersome because of all the different divisions. So this one is a little bit tougher to deal with, but we were successful in a lot of areas. We did add double pay for call out for snow and ice removal. But what that helped us do, that triggered AFSCME into agreeing to mandatory overtime. So it gives public works supervisors a lot more flexibility in scheduling mandatory overtime. For example, this weekend, it was getting really tough to get workers to agree to come out and do work in the emergency times of the middle of the night, et cetera. As far as the wages, it eliminated the 12-step wage scale to 6 steps. All employees, regardless of their scale, who were previously, we were able to move some of the scales into more a systematic, I guess the best way to put it, a more systematic understanding of how they progress through the steps. So essentially, some of them were adjusted, there was anywhere from a 5 to 14% pay increase for some of those individuals. Mainly those ones who saw more of the upper 13, 14% were some of the newer employees who we adjusted the starting pay up to be competitive with other communities in being able to recruit and retain employees. Longevity was increased as it was in the other areas. A couple difference. Went from 1 to 1.5% for 10 to 14 years, 2 to 2.25% for years 15 to 19, and added 0.75% at 7 years.
Any comments or questions?
Yeah,
from
that's all I got.
council? Oh, sorry, I thought you were
That's it.
done.
I'm sorry, I was looking at my notes to see if I missed anything.
Okay, Ms. Skank, please call the roll for us.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Item number 7 tonight is ordinance number O 2022-124, an ordinance authorizing the amendment of a contract with J.L. Cuck General Contractors Incorporated for construction of the pumping system for potable well 20 and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption?
Second. I think Mr. Farrell got me on the second.
Second.
Mr.
Council, this is a request to spend an additional $18,340 from a $905,000 project that was begun in 2021. This was to repair portable well pump number 20. In the process, we found some problems with the new remote transmitting unit was needed at well 20, so the operators at the water treatment facility could talk remotely with the pump and take care of any problems. Currently, well 20 is operational, but it isn't able to be controlled remotely. With this expenditure, the operators will be able to operate the well on a remote basis and not have to go out physically to the pump well sites.
Any comments or questions from council? Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Next is ordinance number O 2022-125, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Altafiber for public Wi-Fi service in various city parks and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption?
Second.
Mr. Lawley.
Council, at this point, or this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Troy Anderton, our Information Services Director, to give a presentation on what this entails. And I think he has Ultrafiber here.
Yes, sir.
In case there's any technical questions that Troy and certainly I can't answer.
It's tougher each year. Mayor, council, what this is this is a proposal to bring public Wi-Fi to 6 parks in Middletown. We selected the parks based on their size and the
Troy, can you get a little closer to that microphone? I think
Sorry.
we're.
We picked the 6 parks that we did based on their size and their ability to bring in people and events, not just for the public. As Dave mentioned earlier, there's many attractive things that come with the Wi-Fi, such as advertisements, notifications, things of that nature that would be with that. And really, that's all I have to say about it. We do have Altafiber here. If you have any questions about the platform, we will turn, it is not 24/7. We will turn the Wi-Fi off when the park hours are not in operation, so it's not something to hopefully attract other people to those areas. So I think it'll be, it's definitely a need. We need to keep our parks pertinent and show that we're using technology and bringing that to town.
So in case you couldn't hear that, because I see Mr. McCrabb bending his ear, he said when the parks are closed for operation, so if it's after dusk, before dawn,
yes.
then the Wi-Fi would be turned off, would be the plan.
That is correct, yes, ma'am.
Troy, because I don't live in your world every day, excuse me if this is a silly question, but are there guardrails that you put on what sites people can visit and who's responsible for the liability if they go on and find a bomb they want to build and, all of a sudden it was a city IP address or something like that? Is there any concern about that and blowback? liability, or?
That's a great question. The Alta Fiber platform does allow filtering of that. It's also logs. We would be able to go back, find those people. But yeah, we do have categories and things like that, so we could prevent that.
Great.
I appreciate Mr. Pierce spearheading this effort along the way. I think one thing that he touched on previously that I didn't hear even tonight was that we will lose out to other cities as far as their use of public parks for tournaments and whatnot if we do not progress in this area. And our city benefits tremendously from these visitors coming to Middletown every year, far greater than the cost of this implementation. And so eventually we will get taken over, where people won't come here because they're going to some other parts that do have those amenities. So I think, as he mentioned, if we don't do it, we have more to lose than if we do. And I know we also received an email from a citizen concerned about bringing up nefarious actors, and I'm not discounting that. I think, though, if we live in fear of what could happen, we will never progress. And so I don't want that to be a hindrance. And I have great faith in our police department to be able to handle those things. So I don't want to dismiss that comment, but I also don't want to live in fear of that either.
Yeah, that's a good point. And again, this is not just wide open internet, right? So this is a filtered product. It's in use by many other agents. We're using it downtown. So currently it sits on the same platform as downtown. You'll be able to advertise through the whole thing and create a unified experience Wi-Fi for those citizens, Jeff.
I think one of the cool things about it is the safety aspect, because I can tell you from having grandkids play soccer through all these parks, sometimes your data does not work. I have Verizon, so having that Wi-Fi, is that extra for somebody out there walking in the evening or in the morning? If anything happens or they fall, they have Wi-Fi to connect and access somebody, or the police or the fire department. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's why they have it in stadiums,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you can't get 20, 30, 50,000 cell signals at once. July 4th, we had a lot of complaints about lack of cell strength and things that this would help aid that by having people hop on the Wi-Fi, ride the fiber out to the internet, and relying on those towers.
Yeah.
Did I see that there was going to be some fiber put in, new fiber?
All fiber, yeah, all of the access points in the parks are fed by fiber.
Okay.
So that's part of the build cost, which I believe was $367,000, and then the operating cost would be picked up by that, and we asked for 3 years of that.
So does that give us a spoke, and again, it's a silly question, I don't live in the world, does that give us a spoke to potentially move more fiber along in the future? That
Well,
won't
I want
necessarily
to,
just be in the parks?
this is not City of Middletown's fiber.
Okay.
This is Alta Fiber's fiber,
Okay.
so it would not help the City of Middletown economically to be able to resell fiber, but it does put Alta Fiber in a better position to potentially serve other customers in the area without extensive build cost.
Which does in turn help us economically.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
How were the access points determined at the different parks, the number of them and the locations? And is that set in stone?
Well, they only have so much strength and radius, so that's what we tried to do. Is they have a mapping tool which you drop an access point. It says I can do 400 feet radius, so we try to plot those around where we felt people would congregate. So it doesn't make any sense to have it in the back of the park if everybody's.
So is that done by city staff?
That was done by Alta Fiber.
Okay, so I think that we need to have a look again at Smith Park, because I don't anticipate 1,000 people at the splash pads, which is where the majority of them are currently located. I don't know, Dave, how much you've been involved in looking at that, but it looks like we'd benefit from shifting one of those along Park Road more, or Rathman has no access points associated with it, yet the fiber is trailing in from there, and I think we're missing out on Rathman Park, or the baseball diamond, as an access point. I'm not sure any of them are going to cover that. So I'm not saying we need to change the number, but maybe look at the distribution of them in Smith Park specifically. I wasn't convinced that, I think they're concentrated too much around the splash pads, and we don't get a large number of people 100 maybe maximum, so.
That would definitely be something we could.
I'm not saying, we're not approving where those are going right now. I'm just saying I looked at it and thought it was a little off.
Okay.
Again, we can certainly look at that, and each access point does incur a monthly charge as well, so that might have been why we didn't scale it as large, to reduce the cost and keep it manageable. But your point is well taken. We will go back if approved, we will go back and look at each park to make sure that we have good coverage on all the facilities. That makes sense.
The other one I was looking at, Lefferson, I'm not sure that where they are right now is going to cover the baseball diamonds as well. So I didn't know if adding one more to Lefferson so that we could get all the baseball diamonds with Midway there would be helpful. The coverage map wasn't clear how far out they would go from the pickleball fields, but just a thought there, I would not be opposed to adding one more so we could cover the fields at Lefferson, the baseball diamonds.
Yeah, the baseball diamonds weren't, again, we looked at the popular thing at each park, so yeah, we may not be covering those, and that could be a phase 2 if you wanted, or we can go ahead and do a change order right at first, add an additional, depending on where the fiber, again, is terminated, it may cost additional to run that fiber to that access point.
And I believe those, the ball diamonds, I believe, are owned by the schools, so maybe that's a good question for them. Maybe they would want to partner with us on that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I didn't
could be
realize that.
wrong on that, but I think that's the Middletown.
I think the incremental cost of adding, I mean, I think we'd probably have to pull more fiber there, but
It wouldn't be
adding the
that, it
one
wouldn't
would-
be terrible.
Yeah. And is there also a way, I saw the timeline, so it looks to me like Smith Park is getting prioritized, which is hence the timeline, but then the others are 18 months into the future. Is there a way to verify that the costs aren't going to increase in that's a long time into the future? I just want to, if we sign this agreement, are we, locked into that?
That is a
And that would be
contract.
the only reason I would want to sign an agreement at this point if we know we're not going to, I'm seeing nodding heads from Alta Fiber.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are signing a contract, and that would be not only for the fiber installation, but 3 years of service, so that would lock us in for the first 3 years, and hopefully, we could then pick up the downtown and then co-term them and just have one payment.
Great. Any other comments or questions?
I have a comment, but not for Troy.
Okay,
so.
thank you.
Okay.
I did just want to say, and this won't come as a surprise to staff, this would be a significant investment in our parks, and, 10, 11 months ago, we had a planning retreat where we talked about deferred capital funds and money that we have set aside for parks, and if we're going to dump $300,000 or $400,000 into Wi-Fi, I still want to see some sort of plan for all those deferred capital dollars. There's certain things that we know we have to do, right? Like we got to do pavement, we got to do basketball courts, we got to do dugouts, we got to do turf, those type of things. I don't want to just dump this money into Wi-Fi and then not also be looking at the funds that we've set aside for parks. Just, I would like to see a plan. I know we're going to probably have a bigger, broader plan for a couple $1 million, but there's boxes that we can check that, yes, we need to do these. So I'd like to see that. And
Absolutely. And that's kind of coming up a little bit later in legislation, which wanting to take the one community events position in that direction to work on some of those projects, not only just special events, but get us to where we need to be in terms of parks and recreation with that specifically in mind.
And then the only other comment would be, again, if this goes forward, and this is for us and for Parks Board and volunteers and community groups, I really want to see, would love to see more tournaments, more events, like more soccer, more baseball, like at all of these parks. I really want to see youth sports and activities come back, and hopefully we're going to see that at the community center that Zach and I are working on that committee. But I view this as an investment into our youth and into our parks, and I'd really like to see that grow here over the next couple months and have a broader discussion. So that's all I have.
One thing I wanted to bring up, because you have some good points, Mr. Moon. I had the pleasure of being at the Parks Board meeting when Dave presented this, and the reason why it's on tonight as a first or any emergency is because if we don't get this moving, we're going to miss out on another season of being able to use it at Smith Park specifically. And so the incremental game of being able to get this out there sooner rather than later allows us to use it yet this year. Otherwise, we may as well just kick the can down the road again, and we're going to be a whole year behind even further. So that was the request, to get them moving, and that's why it's presented tonight as first reading emergency.
So I guess for me, a couple things. I'm fully in support of bringing Wi-Fi to Smith, Lefferson, and Goldman. And I understand the safety factor behind it, but I guess to Tao's point and a lot of people's points, I mean, Goldman, you drive to Goldman Park right now, and the parking lot has small trees growing through it at this point. And I realize we need to get Wi-Fi in these parks, but at what point do we need to improve the infrastructure first? We're spending over $100,000 on Sunset, Jaco, and Douglas. Now, Smith, Lefferson, Goldman, these types of places bring in sports tournaments from other places, but I don't really see, JACO does somewhat, but I guess I'm not 100% in favor of, personally, for Sunset, JACO, Douglas right now, unless somebody, unless I'm willing to listen. But I have no problem revisiting that at another time. We have the ARPA fund meeting next month. Maybe we could discuss that more. But for example, we got our general fund a couple days ago. And what we have in the general fund, and if you follow me right now, we have, so a healthy city will keep 20% of what their budget is in their general fund. The 2023 budget, we have almost $39 million in it. So follow me here. But so a healthy budget, general fund, would be $7.783 million in it. Right now, we have $20 million in ours. That leaves us with, if you set aside the healthy budget dollars, that leaves us with $12,252,279. So from my perspective, if we just put 10% of that to the parks right now that we could verbally commit, that's $1.225 million. And I think that's a step in the right direction. I'm not saying the Wi-Fi from these other parks is not a step in the right direction, because it is, but I think we have to the same point of, getting it done for next season, I think we have to start in the next council meeting or at some point soon, start saying, getting things out to bid. How can we improve the look of the parks? How can we improve the basketball courts? These types of things. I think it needs to be said, and I think we need to push forward on that. So I'll support this if the rest of council does, but we have to get these dollars out there, in my opinion.
I agree, and that was kind of what I was talking about. And I know you feel the same way, and I do think, other than the checklist box type of stuff, like, we need to include Parks Board and, like, hey, do we want to do something really cool at one or two parks? Like, we need to have a bigger, broader discussion about, maybe we don't just look in the catalog and pull.
Yeah, and I'm not the guy to decide that. You don't want me to decide that. I know there's a need, but I don't know what. But
I'd like to have a deeper discussion other than the checkbox. But I would love to go down that list with you.
I might add that the January 21st work session that I've called for not only discusses ARPA funds, but also what we want to choose to do with the capital improvement. And that's one of the things we were talking about is if we have to make a decision on prioritizing the parks, and if we're going to use ARPA dollars or capital improvement dollars on that. And I think, we're going to have that discussion. The other thing I might want to remind you on this issue here tonight, that since we have 4 council members here tonight, and this is emergency, it's going to take a 4-0 vote to pass tonight.
About Sunset Park, we are starting to use it for more events that are getting bigger, that are, I think, going to require some cashless transactions and whatnot. So I think Sunset, it is critical that we do that one as well. The other point is, I imagine, and I didn't think this is being said, but we're getting quite a heavy price break on doing them all at once. I was looking up the actual retail costs of the outdoor access points, and the price that we're getting, I assume, has to do with the fact that we're buying them in a significant number. And so I look at the incremental cost of adding them to some of the smaller parks, and we're really not paying a whole lot to do it because we're doing everything else. So me, I'm a penny pincher, but I also see a value where there is one. And so I am supportive of adding them in. I was not originally, but once I started delving into the numbers and really thinking about it, I said, okay, twist my arm. I'm there with you. So just where I went through my own thought process on it.
Well, and for me, it's not that I don't want to do it, but we have parks that have been ran down for 40, 50 years. I mean, we're wanting to install Wi-Fi in certain ones. I don't know.
Maybe it's the kick in the butt we need to actually improve the parks more than just put Wi-Fi in them as well. So.
Well, one of the problems is we just seem to take care of our big parks. It's a big problem. If you go to Damon Park over off Pershing, there's no nets on the basketball rims. Some of the rims are falling off. The swing sets are garbage. And it's nobody's fault. I mean, we just haven't budgeted as a city.
Well, even it's funny if you drive past Sunset right now and you see the kids playing basketball. Have you seen the basketball hoops?
Yeah.
We redid 98% of the park, and then the basketball hoops are from when Jerry Lucas played there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you know who he is, Zach.
Well, we used to play one-on-one. He used to dunk on him.
Sorry, that's an inside joke with Paul. We always talk about Zach's age, so. But anyway, I think the Wi-Fi, I think it's great, and I think applaud Dave for bringing that up because it could really change the dynamics of these events. The big event that just happened at Sunset in the Fall Festival, I mean, things like that, and the sounds, the Sunset Sounds of Music that Ashley and them did, I mean, those were great. So regardless where you put it, I think it's needed. So great job.
Only thought, back to the mayor's point about where is it nodes? Is that the right word? Where they're
Access points.
Access points. At Douglas Park, if it's possible, I'd love to see some of that thrown across the community center, which is also public property, city-owned, that we're getting ready to put $8, $9, $10 million in. Would be something to consider. So. Yeah.
We chose specifically not to put anything on that side of the road due to the improvements that we were expecting to have. So that would be a phase 2, because we don't know, are you going to have free Wi-Fi in the community center? We did not want to pay that cost. So we parked them on the other side, noting that we're probably going to have a lot more traffic coming in once that comes, and it may spread out. But if that's not the case, we can certainly change the access points, decommission some.
Okay.
That is why we did not do that at that park. So.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
No further comment from us.
Okay, Ms. Skank, you please call the roll?
Mr. Mueller-Stahl?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Great. Item number 9 tonight is resolution number R 2022-53, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Middletown, counties of Butler and Warren, state of Ohio, for the period ending December 31, 2022, and declaring an emergency. This is, I think, some year-end various fund cleanup, maybe?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Lawley.
This is for fund cleanup for de-appropriations and supplemental appropriations to the general fund. It's mainly in order to get everything in audit compliance by the year end, and it will have a net zero effect on the general fund.
What are VBOs?
Sounded like vacation buyouts.
Oh, okay.
Ah, thank you.
We get vacation?
No, what I heard is you can buy it out. Yeah. Keep working. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mueller-Stahl?
Yes.
Ordinance number O 2022-126 is next. This is an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a development agreement with Ohio Regional Contractors, LLC, for the sale of city-owned property known as the former Roosevelt School site for construction of new single-family housing and declaring an emergency. No action is requested until January 3, 2023.
Mr. Lawley, would you like to comment about this?
I'm going to let Mr. Cahall.
Mr. K. Hall.
address.
Thank you, Mr. Lowry. Mayor, members of council, before you is legislation that would designate Brandon Holmes or one of their subsidiaries, Ohio Regional Contractors, as the city's preferred developer for the former Roosevelt School site. As council will remember, the city solicited RFQs back in early fall of this year. And through the vetting process, Brandon Holmes was identified as the developer that proposed to the city that met the criteria and the parameters that you had established for staff to negotiate. So what this legislation would do is that upon its effective date, would designate Ohio Regional Contractors as the developer of record for the property and would allow them to proceed with all pre-development and due diligence work, including geotechnical assessments, environmental assessments. They would be charged with submitting a development plan application to Development Services and to the Planning Commission, and ultimately to your folks' dais for consideration of their proposed plan, which calls for 20 new single-family lots along a new road to be stubbed off of Central Avenue. It's important to note that as part of this package, they have agreed that the lots fronting on Central will actually be rear-loaded from the side street, so we'll not have any new curb cuts on Central, which is a nice, I think provides a nice aesthetic addition to that frontage of this potential new development, as well as reducing vehicular conflicts along Central. As part of this legislation as well, the developer is agreeing to a listing of housing types and styles that would be marketed for this site that meet the architectural requirements that you folks desire. There will also be a hiker-biker path constructed from Central up into Sunset Park for an amenity not only for this potential neighborhood but for all the surrounding community. And the developers afforded the time frame up until the end of next year to get all the zoning, all the planning and approvals and everything else, and that ultimately it would come to your folks' desk. If you approve it, ultimately their development plan, then the developer has the option to then go ahead and proceed to build homes on the subject property. You will also see in the agreement that the city is reserving some reversion rights, so that if the development falters for whatever reason, things happen, that the property would come back to the ownership of the city until certain milestones and conditions are met by the developer. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So one thing I really like that I appreciate the developer added in was the 10-year owner-occupied requirement, which is a really big deal. So I'm grateful for that. I just want to mention that right off the bat.
And this would go through the normal process, public hearing, planning.
Exactly. You as council, if you approve this at the next meeting, you are not telegraphing or communicating to the developer in this case that anything is pre-approved or the like. It will go through the normal entitlement process where an application will go before the Planning Commission. They will hold their public hearings. They will render a recommendation to you folks, which will then require a public hearing process. And ultimately, you will decide, the merits of that application. What you are establishing today is that, hey, preferred developer of the city for this site, here are the guardrails for your proposal to the Planning Commission.
I don't have any questions, but I will say that I've been in a few of the homes. They're gorgeous homes. Mm-hmm. They do nice work.
I think the proposed layout is great. I think it's as good as anyone could do with that property. The hiker-biker trail is critical. I'm glad that was able to get worked in. I love the Central Avenue lots. Yeah, I mean, I really like it. The one thing I had a question about was the slab design. I know it says in here that proposed plans with slab design basement construction would add significant costs and affect elevation floor plan selections available to community. I know, Paul, you had said that would be dependent on the homeowner themselves if they were interested in the basement. Is that?
It would. What you saw there documented is that if for some of the models there, if there were as I understand it, and having this discussion previously, if there were basements as part of that build package, there would be a slight elevation change to the house, not in terms of a lot of materials, but you would see that kind of that water table exposure, and there would be a slight adjustment because they'd have, especially if they had a building code requires them to have a exit window from the basement now, so you would see some of those different features that aren't shown in the catalog included.
And how does that typically go? At what point is there an owner who's purchased the house or design? Like what point in that process? Because I hear that a lot, but then I guess I never knew that the houses were purchase? Is that typically how it goes? And we don't have to know that this minute.
It depends on the builder and the type of subdivision. In this case, staff's assumption would be is that the marketing of this development would be one in which they would say, hey, here are the models that we're offering in this subdivision, and they can then customize from there.
And would there be an HOA
Yes, there would be a requirement under subdivision regulations because there will be a common detention feature for maintenance responsibilities, some common mowing, and I imagine their proposal will have some sort of entrance signage for the subdivision as well.
Well, I know when I drive past a Brandon home in Middletown right now, you can tell their homes and their quality, and this is, I think, the type of home that the Middletown residents want to see. It's I actually asked Ashley Combs earlier because I was interested in seeing, what's Renaissance up to these days as far as new construction, because I feel like you guys are, it's Renaissance and it's you guys to me. And there are 15 permits going right now, and they're almost sold out there. So if somebody does want to come into this Middletown area outside of Sawyer's Mill, where are they going to build? Well, this gives them more options, which at the end of the day, the city wants to give potential residents and current residents as many options, things to do, places to move, those types of things, jobs. So it's exciting to hopefully
They
see
built
how
one right
partnership-
in my neighborhood. It's really pretty.
Great. If we're done with that discussion, we can move on. We're looking forward to more discussions on that topic.
Great. Next is item 11, ordinance number O-2022-127, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with statewide Ford Lincoln for the purchase of 3 Ford Interceptors for the Division of Police. This is a first reading.
Council, this before you, the next 3 legislations before you are for the purchase of 3 cruisers for the staffing of cars for the 3 school resource officers that will be paid for by the school. This also is a total of $148,000 for the 3 police cruisers, $49,000 per cruiser. That essentially will be paid for by the schools. We would put the money up front out of our garage funds. The contract we have with the school will be for $8,000 per vehicle for a 3-year contract. We fully anticipate that contract will be renewed at the end of the 3 years so that further funds will go in to totally recover the cost of the vehicles and the equipment and the decaling, which you'll see in the next 2 subsequent pieces of legislation. If not, then those vehicles will be put into the regular police rotation vehicle replacement fund, and we would just pull out 3 vehicles from that time frame that they would be put into. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on this one at this time?
Next item is ordinance number O-2022-128, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Cincinnati Safety Outfitters to purchase safety equipment for 3 Ford Interceptors and the installation thereof for the Division of Police. This is also a first reading.
This is for all the equipment that would need to go into those cruisers.
Item number 13 is ordinance number O-2022-129, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Phoenix Upfitters LLC for a graphics package for decals for 3 Ford Interceptors for the Division of Police. This is a first reading.
This is for the fire decals that will be, the police decals that will be put on the cruisers.
So
Sorry.
wrong.
Freudian slip. How could I have done that?
I do have a question, Mayor.
Yeah.
Since the department is going to body cameras eventually, are these cars going to be outfitted with the cameras and the microphones as well? Or did you change that policy?
No, they'll be fitted. That was something Troy and I are going to talk about.
Okay.
And he's working on those 3 have already for next year.
Okay.
And then we're taking a list of the current vehicles that we have, and then we will get cruiser cams, and our body cams we put in for a grant will be the same as our cruiser cam provision.
Okay, that makes
Yes.
sense. Thanks, Chief.
Item number 14 is ordinance number O-2022-130, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and enter into a water supply revolving loan account agreement with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency's Department of Environmental and Financial Assistance for the construction and installation of new generators for for the water treatment plant and Yankee Road Pump Station. This is a first reading.
This is to approve the financing for the 2 new generators that were approved in the motion agenda.
Our final legislative item tonight is resolution number R 2022-54, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Middletown, Counties of Butler and Warren, State of Ohio for the period ending December 31, 2023. This is related to the ARPA funding. This is a first reading.
Council, this is for 2 positions that are in the 2023 budget but are not scheduled to start until July 1st of 2023. However, we're requesting to spend a total of $97,856 from the ARPA funds for 2 positions, the Community Project Coordinator and a uniform officer assigned to the Narcotics Division. A uniform officer assigned to the Narcotics Division will allow us to assign a uniformed officer to the narcotics unit for several purposes. One, and mainly, at this time when the narcotics are out doing an operation, if they need to make a pullover, they have to find a unit from the street rotation that may be available to do it. This will assign an officer directly to them, and it can occur instantaneously. This officer will also be able to do things such as deal with neighborhood drug complaints, focus on other problem-oriented situations such as dealing with the homeless, drug issues in the homeless situation, kind of stay on top of what we got going on downtown now with the project we're doing to make the downtown safer in other areas of the city. The Community Events Coordinator, this is the position that we have right now going part-time. We have it, once again, scheduled to go full-time on July 1st of 2023. Going with this will allow us to continue and get going full-time and getting these special projects going for the community to help towards things such as some of the things you were talking tonight about the parks and other economic development throughout the city. They can work with Project for Parks utilization, even have this position work on some issues we're having in the homeless area and other special projects. To wait for these positions by July 1st will put us 6 months behind, and we're trying to get ahead and stay up on these projects and getting some assistance with the uniform patrol and narcotics where it's greatly needed.
Great. If there are no questions about that, then that brings us to new business. Do we have any new business items anyone would like to bring up this evening? I have a request to IT. Are we able to turn the gain up on the dais microphone? I feel like we're really struggling to hear people up there. If there's any ability, yep. Okay, cool. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, then we have a request to move to executive session under the authority of ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of a public employee or official, and under the authority of ORC 121.22G2 to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or the sale of property at a competitive bidding if premature disclosure of information would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage. Do we have a motion to move to executive session?
So move.
Second.
Ms. King, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muterspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes. And I believe there is a possibility we may come out and to make a board or commission appointment, but that would be the only reason to come out of executive session this evening for any reason other than to close the meeting.
Right.
Is that about accurate?
Yes.
Okay. With that being said, we will move to executive session, and everyone have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you all in January, first Tuesday, the 3rd. Thank you. January 3rd, here in Council Chambers at 5:30. Until then, blue skies over Middletown.